my name is David Garcia, and I'm the CEO of ScoutLogic. Thank you for joining us for the next interview in our series on how companies have made the transition to a work-from-home environment. We are so excited for the person joining us today, Brynn Michelich, who is the Chief of Staff at Jellyvision, is going to share her insights on how Jellyvision's made that transition. Jellyvision makes employee decision software to help employees select the best benefits for them as part of their employment situation. And they just have an amazing culture. I've known Jellyvision for years. It's consistently ranked one of the best places to work. And so we were so excited to kind of get their point of view on how they've made it work for a company that has such a strong culture. So Brynn, thanks for joining us today. Brynn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So Brynn, if we could start off, you could just tell us a little bit about Jellyvision and your employee population.
Yeah, so Jellyvision is a software company. We specifically make decision support software that helps employees make decisions about the benefits that are provided to them from their employers. And we're mostly based in Chicago. We have 300-ish employees that obviously have been virtual for most of the year this year, given everything going on with COVID.
Got it. And Jellyvision obviously consistently recognized for your culture, for being one of the best places to work. So I'm sure making that switch from your vibrant office culture to work from home was a challenge. I always like to start by asking this question by leading with the positive is, what's worked well with that transition?
Yeah, I will be honest, when we chose to close the office back in March, I was very nervous. We have, like you said, our culture is really based on employee engagement and making sure that folks kind of have that intimacy with their coworkers and with the work that they're doing. So we were nervous. But I will say what has worked really well, first of all, is that our teams were very well equipped to go fully remote. So overnight, we were able to have the vast majority of people's tasks all just be something that they could do from home. So huge kudos to our IT team for having such infrastructure set up that we could do that. So for the vast majority of our employees, they have been as productive-ish, if not more productive than they were when the office was open. But then secondarily, I think the thing that we've learned that was quite shocking to me is that our employee engagement and things like company meetings, town halls, breakout sessions has actually increased. And what we found is there's an intimacy with talking to somebody one-on-one like this that you don't get from the back of a conference room in a big presentation. So we've been able to actually see a little bit better engagement and a little bit better understanding in the goals and where we're headed as a company because employees are actually feeling that from home.
That is so great. And obviously employment engagement is so critical, especially when not only do we have COVID going on, but some of the other civil strife, people dealing with kids in a work from home school environment. There is a lot on employees' plates right now. So kudos to you all. From the challenging perspective, what's been hard in making that transition?
Yeah, I think it's what probably everyone would answer to this question, which is just the human interaction, right? We've done a great job of figuring out how to make meetings productive and how to make tasks productive outside of meetings. But really, some of the best ideas and some of the best camaraderie comes from the 5 minutes in between two meetings or when you're walking down the hallway and those sorts of things.
Especially at your company, having you hung out in your offices, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So that has been a challenge. That's a challenge for everyone, right? There's just when you're isolated in your home, you don't have that connection. And we've tried to do as much as we can with different events and virtual coffee dates and like those sorts of things. But it's the hardest part of it is really liking your coworkers and not being able to hang out with them.
No, it's hard and just applaud the continued creativity. But at the end of the day, it's not in person and it puts an extra onus on all of us to try and figure out how to keep that human connection going.
Absolutely, yeah.
So last question from a practical advice perspective for your counterparts, what tips or suggestions would you give other corporate or HR leaders in terms of how to make the transition? And if you have anything specific to onboarding and recruiting, that would be really helpful as well.
Yeah, I thought a lot about this with a meeting that I was having with our head of the people team the other day. And I think it comes down to two things. One is taking a look at how you typically recruit and onboard when, everyone can flow freely through the world. and make sure that you are honoring each component of that in some way in a virtual environment.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by new hires, where you go out to lunch with your whole team, and we have, you know, various training sessions with new hires, and we made an active choice to sit down and say, how do we replicate those things in a virtual environment?
So basically,
So we had
mapping that offline process, and then how do we move it online?
absolutely. And I think it's really easy, at least at first, to say, well, we're not going to do a lunch for them because when we get back into the office, we'll do a lunch for them. And maybe that worked in March when we thought, you know, okay, maybe we'll be back sometime soon. But now that we know this, don't wait. Do the things that are important for your processes in whatever way, you know, makes the most sense in a virtual world. Maybe you can go back later and do more in-person stuff, but make sure you honor that stuff.
Yep.
And then the second thing I would say, and this is really important from a recruiting perspective, is make sure you're very honest and forthright on your COVID response.
Yeah.
So that they understand what precautions you're taking, what your plans are for your office space, how your leadership is or isn't engaged, how culture is going to change, those sorts of things, because there's a lot of really, really great candidates that are available right now, and they have a lot of choice. So you want to make sure that they understand what you're trying to do to keep the work environment as safe and as engaging as possible.
And in a way where they won't feel pressured that they're being put in an uncomfortable or unsafe position. I think that's so forward thinking and so employee centric, Brynn. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
But
Well,
it's difficult, right? It's a huge challenge because you're trying to make everything happen in a way that's different than before, and that has implications for you and for the candidates.
Absolutely. And again, given how amazing Jellyvision's culture is, I know how critical that onboarding period is for you. So I just think it's so smart that you map that offline to the online and still respect and give attention to each space, like your lunch example. So that's still being honored as a critical part of bringing people into your culture.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Brynn, I know how busy you are, so thank you so much for taking some time for me today and kind of sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Thanks, Brynn.
All right.